sparked the fuel to get going, which are these industry sessions that we have with people from industry that actually resonate with the theory that you learn, that you cover practically, and that also makes up a substantial part of your assignments. Joining us today, we have got the absolute honor and pleasure of being joined by Theresho Selesho. Theresho is going to tell us more about his background and where he's from and how he got into this exciting space of media, obviously with a focus specifically on eventing. Okay, I'm going to hope that tech doesn't fail us. I can't see my navigation screen. Please tell me if you can hear the audio coming from the awesome video to see the kind of work and the kind of scale on which our guest lecture works today. Oh man, what an inspiration. That's just an event reel from one of the properties that Theresho actually works with. Described as a dynamic creative entrepreneur, Theresho Selesho is making his mark at the intersection of culture and business. Theresho describes his entire work life as a passion project. I'd also like to hear how you get into selecting the passion projects that you immerse yourself in throughout your life. Currently, Theresho is CEO of Matchbox Live, which is a South African entertainment business that owns the Opikopi Festival. So the video we just watched is a highlight reel from one of those festivals, the Drumbeat Festival, the Alchemy Festival, and Matchbox Live also produced Black Coffee's Music is King festivals and other key music properties. Teresho is also a business minded person, co owner of the African Beer Emporium, which is a cultural hub in the city of Tshwane. ABE hosts several music and cultural events that form part of the inner city development program driven by a network of local entrepreneurs and property developers. A standout one for me is Teresho's work currently heading up the Nelson Makamo Studios commercial division with a focus on brand stewardship and partnerships. If I can go into Teresho's LinkedIn profile and see the many, many hats that he's worn, and also at a relatively young age. I mean, you're not even clocking 50, gent, and you've done all of this. Teresho,
Jeez.
welcome to class. Welcome to Boston Media House and the dynamic students that you have in the module Public Relations too. Over the past couple of weeks, we've taken a look at eventing. Obviously, the boring textbook stuff. Never any of the drama that you guys get to see unfold on that end. So the floor is yours. A warm welcome this afternoon. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It feels like I'm late for class after all of these years because I never went to class to learn about the things that I ended up doing in my life and the things that I'm passionate about doing and the work that I do today. Thank you for having me. That was an Opikopi after movie video. I don't know how many people know about Opikopi in the room or on these interwebs in this virtual class. But Opikopi is a South African festival that is 25 years old now, and it's a key festival in our calendar, and that's been happening with different genres, different artists, creators, and it takes it's a mammoth task. I like sharing that particular after movie because it kind of puts everything together in terms of what we do as a business, from concept to execution, from the first beer we sell till the last shot that we sell at the bar, and the memories that are embedded with the people that we do what we do for as well. So to put together a festival like that takes a big undertaking in terms of us engaging with the public sector, health and safety, the South African police services. We do it in the middle of Limpopo, where there is no metro, there's no jock, where you have to go present plans to the city and ambulances are close by. We do it on a farm in the middle of Limpopo, where we essentially build everything that we do on that particular farm. We have to bring in water, we have to bring in generators for electricity, and we house 10 to 20,000 people over 4 or 5 days. So it's like running a little city in the middle of the bush. And we've managed to bring out tons of different international artists over the years, along with established South African artists, but mainly up and coming artists to give them a platform to perform on a stage like an Opikopi festival as well. Also work on various things that we work with brands that want to play within the culture space, mainly in music, fashion, and art as well. So helping them craft their strategies on how do they work within a cultural environment, which artists to work with, which influencers to potentially work with, and what kind of stories that they would like to tell that align with some of the projects that we do. That's how we select the partners that we also work with. I also run African Beer Emporium, which we've run for the past 8 years in the center of Pretoria, opposite the State Theatre and the Reserve Bank, where we saw an opportunity to create a creative hub, a hub where we could showcase events, launches, discussions. We've had TED Pretoria that we hosted there, and a bunch of different things where we've always had to travel to Jozi for all of those kind of experiences. And it was nice to be able to build a space where all of this can happen in a city like Pretoria. I love the city. I grew up in Pretoria, and this was like an offering to the city as well. I also have the privilege of working with some established talents like Nelson Makamo, that we work with. And when he does his exhibitions, we produce those exhibitions and also work on brand partnerships with him to align with brands and partnerships that make sense for his particular brand and that can help extend the stories that we tell. I see myself as a storyteller, and the business that we run is we just storytellers in a very different way, and we amplify other stories of other people that tell stories as well. We also create amazing memories by creating these amazing experiences for the audiences that come to our festivals, the people who come and spend their money with that they work for to escape, to come and have a good time, and to just come build memories with their fellow friends and colleagues as well. And I think for me is the easiest way to drive this session would be let's make it conversational. I would like to hear from the rest of the class what you guys want to know about eventing and public relations as well. I was thinking about it when I'd putting some thoughts together in terms of what kind of student would I hire, or someone who's just finishing studying that would form part of the projects that we do or the teams that I lead as well. And the one main thing is people who care about other people. So essentially, that becomes the core of who we hire and how we hire and the people we develop from early stages, whether you're an intern to working your ways up in the ranks. I started doing events when I was at university. I went to tax and I started throwing parties when I was at university for the university. So spring days, the rags, the all weeks, we started doing that while I was studying. And it was a tricky balance to do both. But at some point, you just have to start and keep it going as well. And just keeping the main things, the main things. So I went to school to study. So we needed to make sure that our marks and our grades were at a particular level in order to keep on doing what we do. Otherwise, the school didn't allow us to throw the events that we were throwing as well. And through just sheer determination and just work ethic, I got picked up by the production company that we used to work with to come and intern with them, started handing out flyers, driving bands and artists around when international acts were here or local acts were here, essentially working my way through every single division because I wanted to learn about every single division. I didn't even study eventing or anything close to this. I was on my way to become a diplomat and studied international relations, and I ended up falling in love with eventing and festivals and culture as a way of connecting people and people from, specifically people from diverse backgrounds as well. I'm from a little village in Limpopo, and being in a big city like this with all sorts of dynamic people that are here for various reasons was a bit of magic that we can capture at the events and the stories that we tell through the events that we do as well. So I don't know what you guys want to speak about, if you've got any questions for me, but I'll just take you through a quick list of the kind of attributes that I look out for when hiring as well. So, a work ethic, it's very hard to determine what is a person's work ethic when they send you a CV. My LinkedIn is crap, for instance. There's nothing on LinkedIn that you're going to find that makes it look amazing as well. I'm not a big believer on platforms like that. It works, and keep on doing it for the people who it works for. And my work is showcased on socials and every other place as well. But what's the biggest place where you can show your work is when people see your work and see the value of the work that you do. And the only way that you can, one of the ways that you can achieve that is through people seeing your work ethic. Whether you are there to document an event, you still are able to clean up at the end of the event, work the gate at the event, not just be backstage hosting the artist, be the stage manager at events. So being curious about learning every single part of what makes up a big project and the smallest of projects, and also having a bit of an obsessive behavior to want to learn and grow is a key attribute. And curiosity, just when you're walking around in town or wherever you're driving around, noticing people, noticing things, noticing the brands that speak to people and what moves people and shakes people, just nurturing that curiosity throughout the journey. And again, caring about people is a big one for me. Is we care about the creators that we represent, the talent that jumps on stage, or the photographers that we work with, because we work, there's a lot of different amounts of different teams that come together to make the magic that we end up producing as well. It's not a one-man show, but it's multiple teams that come together, from the barman to the cleaner to the stage manager to the famous talent that we end up putting on our different stages. Is we have to care about all of those people, because without all of those people we can't get to do what we do. The commercial side of things become very important because we have to live lives and we have to afford our lives, and also we want to all live good lives. So making sure that people pay for the value that you're offering them is key. And never undervaluing yourself is also key. And we can discuss what is being undervalued and what is being valued within the discussion as well. And I always get the question on, when do you start? I think you just start. If you're going to throw a party and if you're known to throw the best prize for 10 people, just be known for throwing the best prize and just starting at whatever level that you're in as well. And your work will always get noticed, and someone will notice something about your work, whether it's your work ethic or how you make people feel or think when they're having a conversation with you, lands and stays with people. Everything else you can learn, and you can learn on the job as you building. Another thing is build your community. So whether you are into punk rap or punk rock, or you're into deep house or you're into piano, build a community around you and grow with that community and protect that community, because that's where the value lies, are the people that are around you, and nurturing that particular community until it's big and substantial. Then you can transact with other producers, with brands that might want to work with you within, to speak to that particular community as well, because then you've got something that is of value if you treat everything that you're doing as a building exercise as well. And always be learning, always be intrigued, always be researching. There's tons of information all around us, podcasts, YouTube videos. Always be intrigued, but not only by your immediate environment. Always try and find out, what are the Asians doing? How are they throwing events? How are they telling stories, good or bad stories, whether it's amazing things or not so amazing things? How are guys in the US doing things, or in Europe? And then trying to contextualize it for your own environment and for your own self as well. What we do comes with a lot of responsibilities, from the first time you're selling a ticket to the last person that leaves that site. You've got matters to deal with for health and safety, regulatory matters, taxes, making sure that legally the contracts that we sign with every single supplier, every single artist, everything is in place. So, and also just showing up in a professional manner, because we are only as good, people will only treat us as well as we treat ourselves, and how we show up when we arrive on time, or you're going to be there, I'm just 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. It's kind of not good enough in most of the spaces that we operate in, because the creative space has always been seen as fluid and vibes. And it's literally not like that at all, because no one is waiting for you in the industry. So you have to carve out your own way into the industry. No one is waiting for you to take their jobs or to create a space for the next upcoming young dynamic creative. That none of that is happening at the moment. It's we operate in the trenches, and it's a super high performing space where only the best people are going to get the gig, only the best people are going to get the opportunity. So there's many places where you can place yourself and create a moment to be recognized by doing the smallest of jobs or the biggest of responsibilities that has been assigned to you, is what's going to get you into any kind of job or into any kind of work, or something that you want to build. Maybe you don't even want to work for someone, you want to build something. Just start. and also have a side hustle all the time. A side hustle will always empower you and just keep a burning fire with. I was waitering throughout my entire university time while I was doing events, while I was studying, and then I was freelancing for the production company that I worked for. But all of that gave me some sort of purpose to say, cool, at every stage, I'm gonna do my bit and I'm gonna earn my way throughout every single stage of my life. And people notice that and people look up to that and they will see one or two things that are form part of your character to say, hey, I need someone like that in my team because that's gonna just elevate the things that we do as well. And for now, I'd like to open up to the floor to hear more of what you guys want to know, what are your experiences as well currently? What are your fears and your aspirations?
Thank you for that initial painting of what it is that you do, how you approach any entity that you're associated with. Um, I am going to give the students an opportunity, guys, to dust off our brains. And if you're too shy to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to type up your question in the chat function. I see we've got a question from Stana G. I'll come to that just now. But Theresho, if I can just ask, um, we always see eventing as a very fun place to be, like you mentioned. If someone thinks eventing, the pinnacle is socializing with talent backstage. But eventing is in itself a business. When does eventing as a business become viable?
When you have to pay rent, when you have to buy your own drinks, when you have to take your girl or boyfriend out, it's viable every day because you have to earn a living and also you want to be called every single time someone wants to do something amazing. So if you treat it like a viable business or a real thing from the beginning, that's when it starts. There isn't a particular moment where it becomes suddenly viable because the economic the cultural economy is huge now and there's big value to it and it's getting big investments and people are starting to recognize and take it a lot more seriously than 5, 10, even 15 years ago as well. And you've got so many platforms to showcase good quality work now where from Pretoria I could sell work to another creator in Japan and we could collaborate on a project that we can take out to the world without having to interface with a big corporation. So it's just about your eagerness and treating yourself as a business before you even form part of a business.
Okay, I like what you mentioned there, participating in the knowledge economy. Let's go to a question from Claire. Claire, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you, sir, for your time. It's always fantastic when a real person is actually kind of reiterating everything that we say in class. It kind of makes me as a lecturer feel like, you see, I told you so. Um, I have two questions for you, and then I have a request for you. My
Sure.
first question is, what is the importance of networking, and how do you protect your network and nurture it and grow it? And what advice would you give to students on how to be a good networker and use the connections that you have?
That's a very good question. A serial networker. It's become second nature. And I guess you develop being comfortable with being uncomfortable in a room. So if you walk into a party or a meeting, the easiest thing to stick with your friends and move with your friends because you don't know anyone else in that particular room. But when you walk into the room, that's the space where you need to leave your friends. You're going to drive home together, you'll see them the next day or whatever the case is, and meet people, introduce yourself, and just being interested in the other person is a big deal when you're trying to network. Finding out what they do, how they do what they do, and asking questions. People like being acknowledged and knowing that someone is asking about them and seeing value. Oh, you the publicist at Sunday Times, or you wrote that particular piece, or you were the producer of this particular record that was released, and I'm a big fan of that particular record. There might not be the big star, but they might have been the sound engineer that worked on that particular album. Just showing keen interest in people in a room is going to help you navigate those different rooms, because then people open up and they start sharing information with you and they remember you. People just remember how you made them feel in a particular moment. Then I'll give you my Instagram handle or my number or something along those lines as well. And once you've started building that network, I like the question that you ask on how do you protect that network as well. Because if I refer you to someone that I know at the Sunday Times or at MTV, and it's the same as you representing me in that particular room because you're a referral. So best believe that you must protect those kind of referrals and know that your friend or your colleague is not going to let you down with whatever service that they want to try and pitch to that particular person. For me, is if I know that my best friend is a great guy, great banter, but he's gonna mess it up when he gets to MTV under my name, or he's not the most punctual person, I'm not gonna introduce you until you can prove yourself to me, at least, that once I've passed you on to a fellow colleague or someone within my network, you're gonna deliver on your word and what you said you would deliver on, because we are all as good as the worth of our network as well.
Thank you so much. Can I ask my second question, and then I'm going to bow out as lecturer.
Sure.
All right. So we always talk about success in events. We always talk about an event going well. But do you have a story to tell us of when things have gone horribly wrong and you've had to think out the box to fix it? You've had to initiate crisis communications, and it's been all hands on deck to sort out something that you didn't plan for.
Many times. I think every single event has got a moment of crisis because that's where the live element comes into play. It's like when you're driving a car, you're alive. Anything can happen at any moment, be it your mistake or someone else's mistake. But coming back to your question, is there's been many events where we run out of drinks halfway through the event, but we've got 15,000 people that are waiting for drinks. And you better know who to call in a moment like that to solve the problem. But also, your immediate problem at that particular moment is communicating clearly to the people that are at the particular event so that people stay calm and going through the right processes to communicate to people as well. And over time, people trust the experience of what your event or your project brings them as well. So people then can become more forgiving and all of those kind of things. We've had crime issues. For instance, at Opikopi, we had a huge outburst of crime issues where we had pickpocketers and we had to work very closely with the cops to at least extinguish that whole issue that we had in that particular moment as well. And there's been mania where people break legs at our event, or there's a fight or something that just goes wrong that is unplanned, or an artist doesn't show up that half of the audience has paid good money to come see that particular artist. And in that moment is a big part of running events is crisis management, because you must always be ready for any eventuality when you're running a particular event. That's why it doesn't help when you're hanging out backstage having shots with the artists, because by the time when something does go wrong and you become part of the problem if you are drinking or you are hanging out backstage and not at least taking care of the bubble that you've kind of created. Because if anything goes wrong or south, you're not going to be able to mitigate all of those kind of issues as well. So always being alert and available to any movement of how the event is moving is very key.
Thank you, Theresho, for that answer. Claire, you had a request to make. Do you want to leave that for the end, or do you want to
No,
table it now?
I'm going to put it out there right now, and it's showing my target market. But so please, can you bring James Hype to South Africa? Thank you very much.
Can you bring who?
James Hype.
James. Okay.
There we go. Look him up. He's currently in Ibiza.
Let's go to a question from Nathan, and I'm hoping all of these pre-student questions are sparking some creativity on your guys' end as well. Nathan, and then we'll come to the chat.
Well, thank you so much, Theresho, and for just giving us your time to our students. Just looking at your CV and that introduction that was given, and you seem to have many moving parts, a lot of things happening at the same time. And so, just from a student point of view, is that something that comes with experience, or is that unique to you? Is that something you've always been able to do, juggle many moving parts? Because I know that some students are just, very introverted, and some students just want to deal with one thing that's in front of them and do that well. But does that ability to have many moving parts and be good at the many moving parts come with experience, or is that something that you've always had, and you've just been able to develop that?
Thanks for the question. Good question. I think it's a bit of both. And firstly, I'll start by saying it's a personality attribute. Some people want to focus on one particular thing and do it super well, and they are crafters. And it's always good to know that that person is this particular kind of personality, so that you don't push them to do three, four other things. Take photos, write, speak to people, do interviews, because if they're not great at doing that and they would rather craft something and do it well and do it deeply, then that's what that particular person needs to do and focus on. But if you're a slasher, I call them slashers. I'm a photographer slash Instagrammer slash model slash call those slashes. You over time you learn your perimeters and your boundaries of when you're pushing it too far and when you're gonna drop a ball, because you better be super amazingly organized and do whatever slash that you're doing, you have to be doing it well. Because someone else is just doing one of those things and they're doing it with focus in that particular thing as well. So I'll give you the past 2 weeks, for instance, we're doing 5 projects locally and internationally. We took a DJ Tugs to London. We're shooting there. He was playing at a big club called Fabric. We did a media day with BBC and a bunch of different big media entities. We then went over 4 days later to Paris to go produce Paris, Matrosa's Paris Fashion Week. They were the only African luxury brand at Paris. While in South Africa, we had a big project in Durban, which was a 3-day event that was happening, a music event. And in Pretoria, we had a deep house event with 2 French DJs that were playing here. And all of those things were happening over 5 days, essentially. And obviously, we've got different teams, and I can't be in every single one of those events all at the same time because geography was determining things and all of those kind of things. But the pre-production work that goes into when we know we're going to have a big week like that, where there's a lot of moving parts, even the most junior person needs to step up in that particular moment. But you also have to give them the confidence and the trust and belief that they can step up, but also that there is assistance left or right. And people step up to occasions like this. It stretches the team a lot, but also placing the right people at the right events and the right project managers with the right teams. So knowing your people is key. So to know dynamics, because if you mix the wrong people together, you're going to have a mess. But if you know that you can have individualistic people or someone who's a bit of an extrovert when you need to be liaising with clients or speaking with people, and pre-planning all of those kind of details is super key as well, and it helps us do multiple things at the same time as well.
Thanks
it
for
does
that,
it does
Theresho. Good question.
it does come with a bit
So I think
of
my network's cutting out. Yes, go
oh,
ahead.
it does come with a bit of insanity as well, because you literally have to zone into every single thing that is happening as well, and just it's an escape within the chaos. You're getting deeper into into the focus. It's just being more focused on what is happening, and nothing else kind of can matter in those kind of moments besides the projects that are happening around you.
Thanks, Theresho. In the chat function, we've got a question from Stana. What does a successful event look like for you?
I think a successful event for me is whatever we've set up to do, is we need to define it upfront. Is a sellout event, does that mean success for us? Making sure that people feel amazing when they're at an event, they feel safe, they're happy, smiles, people are dancing. Does that form part of success for us? We've got different parameters. Financially, if we hit a particular mark, does that mean success? Or just being able to do that particular project in a market or in a region where we've never done something like this, whether it's locally or internationally, does that mean success? But usually we lead by making sure that the people who are coming to our events are happy, and how we also the speed at which we solve issues at. If the toilet is blocked and there's a long queue, how quickly can we resolve that matter? For instance, if we have to bring in new toilets or this or that, it's also part of the success of how nimble our teams can react to particular situations which are challenging in any kind of eventuality. It's part of what forms part of a success. It's not just what we would all think is the money, or it's a full event, or all of those kind of things as well. And I think setting up your goals up front, to know that every single person in the team needs to know what our success looks like, or what success looks like up front before you even open the gates, because then everyone can work towards all of those different things that will deem our event being successful.
Right, Theresho speaking there, guys, to step 7 of our 7-step plan, where evaluation is important, right? Where we're evaluating, we must know what our objective was in the first place. Just a curious question, before we move along, Theresho, you mentioned slashes. What are some of the slashes you're good at?
That's a good question. You guys are on fire. Your questions are on point. I guess networking. I'm a good networker. I'd like to believe I'm a good networker. Strategy. I love strategy. I love strategizing about why are we doing this event? Why are we throwing a party? Why are we working with Ray-Ban and not Persol? Why are we doing this and that? And how are we helping that particular business achieve their goals? And what's the commercial value in that as well? And I think I've got a good commercial head on me in terms of making the projects that we work make sense financially and are sustainable going forward as well, so that we're not just working month to month or year to year. We've got a pipeline of planning of what our next 3 years look like, practically plus also financially. It's also quite key, because then once those kind of things are covered, you can dream. You can look at what is that project that's going to push us a bit further, that's going to make us a bit more nervous, and that's a bit more ambitious, bigger than what we currently are as well. But if you're struggling to pay rent, you're not going to be able to dream, because your projects are not covering what you need to cover. And it helps to just keep the important things important as well. But to your question, I think those are the 3-4 things that I'm good at in terms of slashes.
Okay, Theresho sharing some deep-rooted slashing there, networking, strategizing to be able to see the future, as well as financial sustainability of the entities or the projects that you hop onto.
Sure.
There's fire here in the chat function. Sesam wants to know, when you were a student, how did you handle rejection while trying to open doors for new opportunities? And what strategies did you use to stay motivated?
Your first no, or your first 10 no's, are the most they're the greatest no's to have, because then you build a stomach for it. Because when you send 10 proposals, one person might be interested, because your idea is not the most amazing idea. It's not the first idea. It's a different iteration maybe of something that's been done, but always factor in the no. So when going in, and I think rejection you build over time, and we all take it very, very differently as well, especially when you're presenting and you've come up with concepts and ideas, you haven't slept, and you walk into the room, and 20 minutes into a presentation, they're like, no, actually, this is not what we're exactly looking for. But quickly dust yourself off and move on to the next one, because you'll quickly realize that it builds muscle to get those no's. Those no's are the ones that actually strengthens you and also gives you the confidence until that one person believes in just one idea or a part of your idea, and you can develop something big with them or something that's a bit more sustainable as well. And also just try to keep the right people around you. So people that can challenge your ideas around you as well. So if I'm a photographer or my creative, I'm not gonna just hang out with photographer friends and creative friends. I want lawyers around me. I want people who study accounting, so that they don't come from my world, but they can challenge my thinking. Because as creators, we also make a lot of assumptions that everyone is ready and needs what we are offering as well. But if your friends are bankers or they are studying something else, present those ideas to them. Would they spend their money on what you are selling to someone? Because then that also helps you build a stomach of that potential rejection that might come with your idea not being bought from the first presentation as well.
Right. So Teresha saying that those no's are going to build muscle. I think it's also good to hear this lesson in your second year to be like, listen, when you do hit industry, it's got to be a couple of no's before it's a yes. So develop that thick skin already. We're back in the chat function. Siabonga says, event management is a fluid industry with many people doing events. What did or what do you do to make your events different from others?
There's tons of events. I compete with party planners who plan parties for kids, weddings. They're all categorized in our industry as event planners, conferences. So I decided to focus on creators, people who create original works, and also alternative subcultures as well, and honing in to knowing those deeply as much as possible as well. And that gives you a competitive edge, and being willing to present what is not necessarily mainstream to people. So if we know Maporisa and Kabza are killing it, I'm not going to book Maporisa and Kabza because everyone else is booking Maporisa and Kabza. I might book someone else who's slightly younger, more edgier, and builds around that particular DJ. I'm just using Kabza and Pori as an example. They're amazing producers and DJs, but be willing to offer something that is not available in the market. And that's how we've managed to build our our business as well. And also with the brands that we work with, we always try to solve whatever commercial project or problem that they might have, instead of them just giving us a sponsorship because we want to do an amazing event and the LSM fits or the age group or the target audience fits. That's not good enough, because if once the well dries up, you're not going to be priority because you didn't really help them move the needle within their business as well. But if you look at it both ways, how do I help? How does my platform help this particular business shift or change or solve some of their business problems? That is a big differentiator as well.
Right, Siyabonga, there, your answer to say solve more than just bottom line questions for your event specifically. Teresha Pezile wants to know, what new lessons have you learned in your industry? We're constantly being told, listen, industry is changing, their developments. What lessons have you learned? And is it moving as fast as we imagine?
It's moving. We're not moving as fast as we can imagine. And the world is open, and it's open to Africa, it's open to South Africa, and we need to develop as many project managers. We're not producing trained people as quick as we can, number one. We're also not giving enough young people in service training as quickly as we need to be as well, in order for us to be globally competitive. Like I keep on saying that no one is waiting for us. The world is really not waiting to create a moment for African kids. And if every African creator, they love the things that are coming out of this continent, but literally nobody's waiting. We compete, whether you're competing with a kid in Berlin, London, anywhere. And the circumstances, no one is also bothered by the circumstances that we have. Whether I come from a rural village in Limpopo, I've got electricity or not, no one also really cares about that. So those are some of the lessons that you learn and you're exposed to. Some are harsh realities, and because different markets and different people have got different resources and different kind of support structures where government supporting industry, and we don't have that. We're building it literally day by day by ourselves. That's why we have to take it as seriously as we can and protect it as much as we can, because this is all we are, and this is all we have, essentially. No one is going to bail us out or give us a grant to do bigger things or better things, and we're treating it as DIY. So you have to treat it like it's your life depends on it. It sounds intense what I'm saying, but that's the reality of how competitive our industry is. It's not a South African industry, it's a global industry, and we form part of that.
Forming part of the global industry. I'm liking how a lot of what you're saying has to do with taking ourselves seriously. You know, not relying on what the typical narrative people believe to come out of SA to be about handouts and waiting for grants. Trend spotting one coming in from Stunner in the comments. Also, what resources would you recommend for staying updated on industry changes?
Curiosity and getting out there and just going to not what is familiar to you, but where you see something new or you experience something new, whether it's at an Afrikaans festival or it's at a tech show or it's at a programming festival, which has got nothing to do with eventing per se. But the way people think in particular industries is also very useful to pull what is useful to form part of your own business as well, or legal, where you've got legal friends that, because everything that we're also doing, we're creating intellectual property. Ownership is becoming a very big subject, and even more, because those are the things that are going to keep us going. So being curious and always being on different platforms, whether you prefer being on social media and not just watching dope videos of Didi or this or that. It's also just finding places where your curiosity can be nurtured and picking the best out of all of those bits and pieces, whether it's on YouTube or you're reading papers or however you consume information. I don't like prescribing how people learn or consume information, but curiosity, nurturing your curiosity will lead you to find the information that you require.
I think the second question here from Siabongo also attaches to that one. In which direction do you see the industry moving in the next 5 to 10 years? Where are we going?
I think the South African industry is growing. It's also becoming a lot younger, and it's a lot more welcoming to younger people. People are seeing value in our industry in terms of investment, corporate investment, private investment that's coming in, whether it's in the fashion business, it's in the art business, and also government is also starting to see what is being exported, because we're exporting the most amount of talent, whether it's clothing and fashion, art and music, with how piano, for instance, what it's blown up to become globally, where people are starting to see value in what we do, and not just value because it's vibes and people are making amazing TikToks all over the world about our music and about the sounds that we create, but people are also earning. It's changing people's lives from early stages as well. And that needs to be nurtured and protected. Plus, also, if we do not 10x this or grow at a rapid pace, grow it ourselves, someone else is going to build around us using our intellectual property. So I think Africa is at an amazing time at the moment because we're energized. We've got a big, large population of young people who are eager, super creative. We can compete with anyone in the world. Our creativity is next level and we're doing amazing things. It's just how do we get and nurture that talent so that sessions like this are key. Like we should be doing these weekly because that's the only way we're going to hack the system. I keep on saying no one is waiting for us. The only way you're going to get in is we have to hack the system. Whether you're hacking into yourself into a small business, a global industry, we have to hack ourselves as African creatives into these different spaces and pull up our own chairs at the table. That's the only way it's going to happen.
From South Africa to the world, I love how you're saying there's definitely an appetite for more coming out of South Africa and Africa as a continent in general. We've got a hand. I don't know if that was a hand or we're looking to comment from 6072. You're more than welcome to unmute yourself. Let's engage. I think we were looking for the clap button. Okay. One from my end. You mentioned how your approach to events is strategic. Obviously it will trickle down to more tactical things, but how much work goes into surveying an entity, right? If you wanted to host a festival in the middle of nowhere, how would you know that that is going to make sense and is a viable event?
There's a few ways of studying that is what infrastructure the area has. So does it have water? Does it have power? Number one, can you get in? Can you get 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 people in and out without causing congestion? And then systematically, how is it managed? Do they have a mayor, town? Is there South African police services, metro, provincial police? So like you get all of the legalities out of the way in terms of infrastructure, because that forms part of the infrastructure that you would be placing yourself within. And then in terms of budgeting and planning on how close are the closest suppliers? Are we bringing everything from the big metros, or can you source some of the things locally? Can you source the tech locally, the stages locally, or do you need to transport all of those kind of things locally as well? Weather becomes a very key part of what you can do, cannot do. If it's an outdoor thing, indoor kind of project as well. So surveilling all of those kind of elements you can do from your desktop, but also doing it on the ground is always best. And also engaging with locals, people who are from that particular area, because they'll give you insights that you will never find on the net or on Google Maps, where we're drawing our plans out. We usually draw our plans out on Google Maps to do measurements and all of those kind of things as well, so that by the time you have to present a concrete production plan to the officers or to the authorities, you've kind of ticked all of those boxes, because you need to prove or show to them that you've thought through every single element of health and safety, traffic control, fire hazards that might come into play as well for any eventuality. So you become a disaster manager before the disaster actually happens. So you have to form part of that. And then you can start doing the cool stuff of coming up with themes and concepts and creating ideas, which is the stuff that we love to do.
Right, so that event strategizing toolkit. I mean, you've probably honed it over a couple of years also. Some of the lessons only maybe in your 10th year of eventing, you're like, okay, this needs to be in place. We've got a question from Claire. Claire, go ahead.
Theresho, I want to ask, what are your pet hates or pet peeves when it comes to events and eventing in South Africa?
I can't remember the English word at the moment. Entitlement. is one. That's the word that I was looking for. I think as a market, we're entitled. We can be a bit entitled, be it the crew, the people who come to shows. That's I dislike that a lot. And also we are very fragmented. They are white events, black events, this, and it's all led by sounds or genres. That's changing a lot, but eventing and festivals, and whether it's a tech thing or it's a music thing or fashion thing, we should be, because we're such a fragmented industry, which has our government and our population hasn't always seen the value of culture per se. But if we had to collaborate within these multidisciplinary practices, be it art, fashion, music, where you can blend all of them, it explodes all of those different audiences and at least exposes the different audiences to each other. And you telling one cohesive story. And that's what mainly we work towards as a business as well, so that we can show different cultures, different ways of approaching things as well. Because again, sometimes I tell the guys, we're not saving lives what with what we do. So people can do without what we do, but we need to give them a reason to believe in what we do and how important it is to their lives as well.
Thanks there, Teresha. Some of the realities, you're right. Events for a certain demographic or people who focus on one particular area. A question from Siabonga: how long before an event do you start planning?
Yesterday, we start planning ASAP. So when if a project, we just did Paris Fashion Week last week, we've already started planning for next year's one in March. So that's how soon we start planning. So have your
Guys, are you
celebratory.
actually catching the gravity of this? This is Paris Fashion Week. Hats off to you guys. What were some of the
Thank
challenges also there with Paris Fashion
you.
Week for you guys?
It was chaos. It's expensive working in a market like Europe because everything is super expensive. You're competing with big legacy brands. The show that we were doing was before Amiri, after Louis Vuitton, after, so you've got all of these big brands around you, and we're a brand from SA, downtown Josie, that is punching above our weights. And no, again, no one cares where you're coming from. You're showcasing the best of the best in a global stage. So you just have to show up and do your best. So we took the best people, best makeup artists, best models, best of everything to there as well, because it's part of the investment of the story of telling our own stories in our own way, so that we are placed within a particular market and a particular place in this kind of moment as well. We had logistical issues where some of the clothes arrived on the day of the event, for instance, before the runway show started. So that's a lot of stressful, it comes with a lot of stress as well, managing all of those kind of things, or someone not making it or not catching a particular flight because they were busy with another show. And there's just a lot of moving parts where we're showing for 3 hours, but per day, there's about 46 shows that happen at Fashion Week as well. And it's different ranges of shows. Some people are taking over entire blocks, and we've got a venue. We did it in a big church, in a big cathedral, in next door to the South African embassy, which ended up being a very particular moment, and which amplified the story that we were telling as well about African Renaissance, owning our own African Renaissance. And because we are the luxury, we were not just there to showcase the clothing, but we're also just there to showcase us, our thinking, our creativity, and just the daring minds that we have as a young people and as the people that came to showcase on a platform like that. So it became more than a project, it was like national duty. Again, Makosa was the only African brand that was showcasing at Fashion Week in the official program.
Oh, wow. It became a matter of national pride. I think that also speaks to the resourcefulness, you know? You mentioned how no one cares. that you're putting on a show, but back home there's no electricity, there's political unrest and the like. Just always representing and putting forward our best foot. In a space like that, where you mention a lot of the top luxury brands, right? How do you remain authentic in the big rooms, right? You said no one cares that you don't have lights, right? Do you get into a room and you start twanging, or how do you lead with authenticity that makes you guys stand out?
You arrive as yourself. People are attracted to people who are genuine and honest and who arrive as themselves. There's nothing as unattractive as being trying to behave or be something that you are not as well. And that's why I think, for instance, people have gravitated towards piano, amapiano, because that's literally just us, being happy. We're happy people with all of the challenges that we have, all of the political issues, economic issues, but we tell happy stories because we're hopeful people. But we're not showing up twanging in the dances, in everything else. And that's that magic, that spirit that is showcased on different stages. People are hella attractive to that because they also have their own kind of challenges, but it gets us through what we get through every single day with the things that we deal with. So just showing up as yourself, whether it's broken English or Nyawabulala Sepitori or whatever it is, show up as yourself. People love that. And people, I think it also builds confidence to keep on showing up as yourself when you're also received as, oh, wow, these guys just showed up as themselves. We didn't show up to come tell any other stories but ourselves and our own stories.
Show up as yourself. As we prepare to wind down, guys, if you've got that burning question that you've played over in your mind 100 times and you're shy to unmute yourself, type it into the chat function. Let us throw it out there. Put yourself out there and your thinking out there. You mentioned something a couple of points ago, Teresha, where you said that there aren't enough at present apprenticeship programs that are going to take Letabo fresh out of varsity, or even still in the process of figuring out how varsity concludes, to give them industry experience. Is the onus for creating that pipeline on organizations? Is it on government? Or is Letaba just going to wing it until they become Teresho in 5, 6 years?
It's on both sides, but Letabo must also know that being a South African is winging it as well. We wing everything. So I think it's on both. It's both on government's responsibility to to make sure that there are real apprenticeship programs that are of value for people and not just tick box exercises where there's a stipend, you spend 3 weeks or 3 months, and then people move along, but they've learned not much, but they can put it on a document that I spent 3 months at Ogilvy or at Shosho Communications or whatever the case is as well. So I think if that can be better enforced and also incentivized, so incentivize businesses to take on young people into into the industry as well, because that's what happens globally. It's a big incentive. And then we can start a structural, engineered way of taking more people who will also leave that 3 months with actual skills or at least some sort of exposure, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or it's 12 months. I think it's key. It's something that we do as a business like throughout because that's how I got into the business. I started as an intern. Someone took me under their wing and gave me an opportunity to learn. And it's for you to mess up that opportunity or not. But we need to create those opportunities in order for people to get to workspaces where they can learn and also educating the people that they're going to be working alongside that. The young person that's in the room is not here to take your job or threaten you, or they're there to be groomed to work alongside you and even to do better than you, because a lot of you guys must be pushing the boundaries further than where it's at. That's why we want to leave it as far ahead as possible so that you can do Fashion Week in 5 years, because I won't want to be doing Fashion Week then, but you must do the next show somewhere else in a bigger environment. Are we taking a show to the space station with Elon or something like that, so that we're always pushing? But we have to lift the bars. Everyone has got a different role in every stage of the process as well. When I was a student, I had a particular role. When I had started working, I had a particular role to work towards excellence. And excellence looks like Paris Fashion Week for me today, but it didn't look like that 5, 10 years ago. As long as everyone kind of understands what your role in every level that you're at means and is. And sometimes it's just showing up to work on time. That might be your role as an intern.
Right. I love it. Theresho, speaking to how, yes, lift as you rise, but do what you must and what you're supposed to at that particular phase of your life. Love that you're opening doors. Segueing into Nathan's question, let me ask, in case our students are shy, can one of our students come to shadow you if you've got capacity, of course?
If
Yeah,
they can keep
Nathan's
up.
looking out for the placements.
I see, Nathan. I see you, Nathan. Of course, you can send details and we can check it out and see where they can fit in and if they like what we do and how we work. Always willing and open to work with new people.
Okay, positive answer there for Nathan. I've got a question before we wrap up. We'll close with Sia's question. I'm just curious, for curiosity, you see a post that's got like 15 headline acts. How does it work? How does my 150 rand add up to the fact that I can see 18 national acts?
What is the question? How does it work?
Yes. How does it make financial sense? If you look at someone's booking fee and you've got Maporisa followed by Zintle, then
Sure.
Murder and Oprah Winfrey all on one lineup.
I guess it depends. Those are the kind of shows we don't do. So it depends. We like creating experiences so that it's not always just dependent on us selling tickets because we've got 15 headliners. Because if that's the case, the experience might be lower. Sometimes, if you can get both right, getting quality artists mixed with a quality experience, so that the experience for myself when I'm at an event is not just about the time that I'm actually watching the artists. That's the sweet spot where you can have a bit of both, because your 150 does not, trust me, it does not cover a lot towards, you need to sell a lot of tickets to pay the booking fees that we pay a lot of the talent, because talent is super expensive at the moment. And the lineups end up becoming the same, whether you've seen Pori, Komagu and Jalo, or I'm seeing him somewhere else or this or that. In one weekend, in Gauteng, I can see Pori and Kabza in 4 different places. It takes a bit of the magic away as well. So like there's a rarity to how you program the shows. We call it programming of which artists are you booking, and then we might not book that particular artist for the next 6 months because they're gonna be oversaturating the market, so that when they play at our events, it's our audience gets to see them every now and then. It allows you to include new talent and interesting people from Cape Town that you're booking, a DJ from Durban, a Guam DJ that never gets to play in Pretoria can now be seen in Pretoria because he's got a fan base here. So always looking at those different dynamics, key.
Okay, thank you. Explaining some of the science behind how those mega lineups work and how to also keep it authentic. I'm staying staying true to the kind of work that you do. Parting shot from Sebonga. What are the biggest obstacles and achievements that you have had in industry? I know you mentioned maybe a pinnacle right now coming off Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. Any other standout ones from an achievement perspective? And the biggest obstacle also?
Biggest obstacle. Uh, that's a. There's been a lot. I've had many obstacles. When artists don't show up, when you're disappointed when you've booked an artist and then they end up coming with stories and then they don't show up. I think when that happens recurring, that's the disappointing. I don't linger too much in disappointment because I factor it into life as well. It balances out at the end. So I don't even I don't have one standout moment now that comes to mind that I can say, yo, this was a calamity. And touch wood, nothing too crazy happens in the projects or events that we do. But I've had a lot of different highlights in different stages of my life. So I started interning at Opikopi, and fast forward many years later, we co-owned the festival. That was a moment for me. And when produced Black Coffee's Music is King, it was an idea that he had for 4 years as a concept of wanting to do the biggest dance music festival at the Dome. And 4 years later, we managed to bring it to life with ballerina dancers, grand pianos, and a live choir with electronic music at the Dome. That was a very special pinnacle moment for me. And being able to do projects with people that I look up to, that inspire me, like Nelson, Magamo, Latuma from Makosa, Black Coffee. Those are people that have groomed me and have become brothers and sisters in some form, shape, or form. But they also inspire me in the work that I do and their outlook on life and how they're always wanting to push boundaries. So just being able to operate at that with that kind of caliber of talent to tell African stories in their different disciplines and being able to be the support back room engine to do the things that we do. It's a moment and it's a pinnacle as well. And hopefully we can get more people within the businesses that we run and the industry at large to be doing these things for the longest of time.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing that. I like how you highlighting how yeah there were stumbling blocks, but you use them as stepping stones rather. So that's why they don't come to mind because maybe one no opened so many other yeses. Theresho, re leboga go menagane. There's no amount of thanks that we can give that would equate to how valuable this session has been. And I mean, we can attest to that. Half of the time, Shame, the students are very shy, the questions don't come through, but you had all of us literally on the edge of our seats for more than an hour. And we appreciate your time. And also knowing that we can be honored with your time, you know, as academics who are preparing students for a field that you're in to at least send you the blank canvas you can work on. We do appreciate your input. With Nathan's question also about reaching out for shadow opportunities, I think Nathan's always tasking us with stuff to do. So we're going to task him with something to see if we can build something also that's sustainable. You know, like you said, it needs to make sense beyond just maybe an industry check-in or a drop-in for 3 months. Let's see how we can put our heads and our resources together to establish this relationship going forward. Siyabonga says, thanks. I asked you a lot of questions.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for answering them diligently. And Nathan says, thanks so much for honoring us with your time. We're so grateful. Thank you so much. This recording is also going to be made available. So, students, if you're looking for a podcast that you can listen to and you can play over time and time again and just dig deeper into the wealth of knowledge, Google Theresho, see the kind of work that he's done, and advocating for our culture specifically. I think it's tremendous strides that have been taken, and we on our end will continue to support your work. Re lebogile. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Teresho. Guys, that's where we're going to park our lesson for today. I hope it's been informative. It's run just a little under your time, so we'll make up all that we need to cover in our next class if you have a remaining class for this week. Other than that, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the amount of work that you put into your own academic journey. I promise you it pays off. Like Teresho says, do the heavy lifting in the space where you've got excess, and you'll see how it all comes together eventually. Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon.
you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Nathan. Have a good one.
Bye.